Tataka naman ako. Ito, bakit? Mamaya sabihin nga na, siyempre. Hey! Papa, ya mama. Dapat mga ano pa pala, mga bigyan niya sa akin. Alam mo yung exercise?
Pwede ba kung ano, pwede ba kung wala ka sa kahit demo yung video mo habang matay ko ano naman, ano oras mo kung nasa video? Kaya ba natin tapusin yun ng Friday? Set up. Ngayon nga, pwede mo nagiging sa kahit yung comments. Hindi ba pwede kahit hindi yung chat? Para kung last minute ko, ano pa mga kailangan. Ano pala po? Mas mahal ka lang yung labor mo. Hindi mo pwedeng gawin ano. Anong pinakamababa ng labor mo? Baka yung 2086 kasama mo. Hindi kaya. Ang binigay mo sa akin, universal, ano?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let us all please stand for the Philippine National Anthem.
Tawagan ka. Ito na?
Mga kapamilya, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
The meeting will please come to order. Mr. Secretary, were notices of this annual meeting properly sent to the stockholders of the company?
Mr. Chairman, I have caused notices of this annual meeting to be sent to all stockholders of record in accordance with the provisions of the bylaws.
Mr. Secretary, is there a quorum?
Mr. Chairman, according to our records, we are present in person or by proxy. 2,957,861,729 shares, representing 64.53% of the outstanding capital stock of the corporation. Mr. Chairman, there is a quorum for the transaction of any business presented at this meeting.
The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting. Can we just get this meeting started?
In the notices, I'd like to ask questions on the notices. Mr. Chairman, I think the microphone is detected maybe somewhere. The next stockholders meeting, we will replace the audio. We will make it better audio because there is no microphone here.
Go ahead.
We will replace the.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We change the audio with another one. There, maybe we can find better. I suggest that, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Healy, stockholder, holder of uplifted and shares lodged with the Philippine Central Depository. Up to the present, Mr. Chairman, I have not received a notice of this lobbyist holding corporation annual stockholders meeting. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Take note of that, and we'll check our records if how that was sent.
The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on June 29, 2011. I think you better use the other mic.
Mr. Chairman, since copies of the minutes of the meeting held on June 29, 2011 have been furnished to the stockholders, I move that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with and that the same be approved.
Second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that the reading of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on June 29, 2011 be dispensed with and that the same be approved. Is there any objection?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Under this information, may I proceed, Mr. Chairman? Inasmuch I have not received the notice of this stockholders meeting, I am voting for the record in abstention and or with reservation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any objection aside from the gentleman? There being none, the motion is carried. I would like to present to you my message as chairman of the board. Good morning. Welcome to the first screening of the Avengers Part 2. Fellow stockholders, the world economy in 2011 was in a state of constant turmoil that saw Europe and the United States in so much trouble. Recent developments seem to indicate the fragility of the global economy. With instability of the Eurozone, the emerging markets have become more interesting to many investors. But there is no way of isolating the economic problems of the Western economies from the rest of the world. The generally high unemployment, depressed asset prices, and relatively slower global trade kept and continues to keep most economies on the defensive. As if there weren't enough man-made economic disasters to deal with, a natural calamity in Japan coupled with poor regulation of its nuclear power industry devastated a significant portion of the northeastern Japan, leaving thousands homeless, unable to get back to their homes for the next few years. Political unrest in the Middle East, called the Arab Spring, continues to threaten the political order in an already volatile area of the world, with the resulting impact to our economy in the form of rising oil prices. Yet last year also saw the Philippine economy starting to draw the interest of investors around the world. They are likely seeing the potentials of a country that is finally under a government that is led by a president who is perceived as honest, sincere, and trustworthy, a sharp change from what we have had in the recent past. Ruchir Sharma, the head of Morgan Stanley's Emerging Markets, wrote a book entitled Breakout Nations, in pursuit of the next economic miracles. This is about an exciting new group of up-and-coming countries. And believe it or not, the Philippines is one of the breakout nations that he cited. Like a growing number of investors, Sharma found it easy to put his trust in President Aquino's promise of a level playing field, one that will allow investors to be their best, unhindered by the usual political rent seekers of the past. In his book, Sharma expressed high hopes of our bright future, sparkled by the excitement generated by Pinoy's aura of honesty and good governance. In the meantime, the ever-increasing remittances of our OFWs continue to help boost confidence in our economy. The growth of the business process outsourcing industry, or the BPO, and the increases in the investments generated in our export processing zones all contribute to the confidence of a fast-growing economy in the years to come. For the first few months of this year, optimism in our business sector can be seen in the rise in private investment. A government declaration to reverse the underspending of the previous year due to anti-corruption reforms was also seen as a promise of a more robust economy than we have seen in recent years. Analysts see a moderately positive scenario for the economy with about 4.5% growth this year and 5.5% the next. They, however, warn of contagion from the downside risks to the global economy and the fragile recovery of our export sector. All this considered, the best and worst case economic scenarios for the Philippines, according to some analysts, critically hinge on what happens to Europe and consequently to other major economies, especially the United States. In this milieu, our major investees, ABS-CBN Corporation and First Philippine Holdings, performed creditably. ABS-CBN maintained its ratings leadership locally and globally. It delivered news and entertainment content on multiple platforms, offering the widest array of media content and channels for advertisers and viewers alike. ABS-CBN is all set to launch digital television broadcast in the Philippines and is just waiting for the government's approval to do so. ABS-CBN has also continued to fulfill its mission to serve our fellow Filipinos all over the world. ABS-CBN Global offered innovative tier packages to address the needs of subscribers adversely affected by the situation in the Middle East and Japan, and to some extent in the United States. First Philippine Holdings celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2011. With a revamp of its investment portfolio, First Holdings is now quite happy to be primarily a power generation company, which is how it began and has always been. FPH may also participate in the government's Public-Private Partnership, or PPP, program involving power projects. First Gen Corporation, a First Holdings subsidiary, successfully laid the groundwork for international operations. After signing deals with an Australian company to co-develop geothermal resources in Chile and Peru, First Gen is also considering Indonesia as a possible expansion site. Meanwhile, Lopez Holdings worked on completing its debt restructuring process, which began in 2002. Our efforts were rewarded as the stock market anticipated our success, with the stock price of Lopez Holdings reaching an intraday high of 6 pesos and 95 centavos in May of 2011. To regain the confidence of stock investors is a significant milestone for the company, considering that our shares were trading even below par as late as in December of 2008. Immediately after the tender offer for unrestricted debt was completed in September of 2011, the board approved the first cash dividend of Lopez Holdings since becoming a publicly listed company in 1993. Although the rate was a modest 10 centavos per share, it was symbolic of corporate recovery, following years of utilizing the company's cash and resources in solving its debt problems. Earlier this month, the board approved our second cash dividend at 10 centavos per share to be paid out on or before June 15, or in 2 weeks' time. The challenge now of your board and management team is ensuring that shareholder return is done on a consistent and regular basis. Lopez Holdings is a young corporation, not even 2 decades old. We renew our commitment every year to the development of our nation, aware that only a prosperous people can be truly free. We have always united ourselves with our people's aspirations for a better tomorrow, putting ourselves at their service to provide them with services that improve the quality of their lives, to inspire them with the best in Filipino talent and ingenuity, to provide them with clean, indigenous, and renewable energy, to be their tool for investing in all that is good in our country. All told, while it was a trying year for most of the world, our companies have been able to benefit from the renewed confidence in our economy and our country's leadership. We are indeed confident enough to spread our wings beyond our shores, and as mentioned earlier, we got our first contract to look for geothermal energy in Chile. We look to the future with hope and anticipation of better times for our country and our people. We remain focused on growing our current businesses to reach more Filipinos and contribute to their well-being. We respond to the needs of our nation with integrity and responsibility. We thank you, our shareholders, for keeping the faith with us through difficult times. We have overcome our difficulties now, and it is certain that the best is yet to come. We are now excited to go up the next level and with a more focused portfolio of investments and show the world we can help our country's economic growth through our meaningful investments in needed infrastructure. Finally, I want to thank all those among you who have expressed support for my work in Japan. It is a huge commitment requiring patience, sacrifice, and understanding. We have more than 220,000 kababayans in Japan, and their welfare is our primary concern. The embassy is also very busy running programs to bring more Japanese investments into the Philippines, as well as to bring in more Japanese tourists. Investments and tourism have a multiplier effect in terms of employment, and we would like our kababayans to benefit from that. Thank you for your faith in your board and in your management team. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. At this juncture, fellow stockholders, Mr. Salvador G. Tirona, our President and Chief Operating Officer, and also Chief Financial Officer of the company, will present to you the report of management.
Our valued shareholders, colleagues in the Lopez Group, mga kapamilya, good morning. During last year's annual stockholders meeting in June, we ended our report by saying that the ultimate goal of your board and management team was to achieve closure of the company's debt issues in the shortest possible time so that we could move forward and start delivering returns to you, our shareholders. Shortly thereafter, your company conducted a tender offer and consent solicitation during the third quarter of 2011. The success of this exercise enabled Lopez Holdings to declare last September its first ever cash dividend since its IPO in 1993. And last month, your board approved a cash dividend of 10 centavos per share to be paid on or before June 15 of this year. Lopez Holdings ended 2011 with only $30 million in outstanding debt, of which $23 million has successfully been restructured. You may recall that when the company declared a standstill in 2002, our debt reached a high of $560 million. And in February 2012, the company purchased from another creditor the remaining $5 million 7.875% Eurobonds at face value, further reducing our debt to $25 million as of March 31, 2012. This has enabled your management to focus on and execute steps aimed at improving value to you, our shareholders. For the year end 2011, Lopez Holdings reported a net income attributable to equity holders of the parent of 3.96 billion pesos, 70% lower than the 2010 income of 13.2 billion pesos. The 2010 results of operations includes the company's share in the 23.6 billion gain on the sale of Meralco shares by our associate First Philippine Holdings, shown in equity and net earnings of associates in the consolidated statements of income. The gain on extinguishment of debt represents the excess of the carrying amount of obligation over the buyback price or over the fair value of the restructured debt made by Lopez Holdings for each of the 3 years in the period. Also in 2011, ABS-CBN Corporation, together with Lopez Holdings, sold its Sky Cable Philippine Depository Receipts, or PDRs, to a foreign investor, resulting to a gain of 1.29 billion pesos. At the consolidated level, Lopez Holdings' total assets grew from 70.8 billion in 2010 to 77 billion in 2011 and to 79.3 billion as of March 31, 2012. This figure includes the assets of ABS-CBN. Debt-to-equity ratio was maintained at 0.3 times as of the end of the first quarter of 2012. Book value per share reached 10.10 a share at the end of the first quarter from a value of 8.76 pesos a share in 2010. For the first quarter of 2012, Lopez Holdings reported a net income attributable to equity holders of the parent of 2.6 billion, significantly higher by 192% compared to the income of 902 million a year ago. This is mainly due to our share in the gain on the additional sale of Meralco shares by associate First Philippine Holdings. Your company has remained focused on its two core businesses. ABS-CBN leads synergies with affiliate Sky Cable Corporation and sister company Bayan Telecommunications Inc., and reflects the diverse nature of its operations, which include, among other things, television, radio, cable, cinema, talent development, magazines, recording, international content distribution, licensing, and public service. ABS-CBN maintained national ratings leadership in 2011 with inspired programming that touched the hearts and minds of viewers. First Philippine Holdings, which celebrated its 50th anniversary last year, is now the recognized leader in clean and renewable energy through First Gen Corporation and Energy Development Corporation. Your company owns 60.3% of ABS-CBN and 46.6% of First Philippine Holdings. Let me now report on the financial performance of these companies. ABS-CBN reported a consolidated net income attributable to equity of the parent of 2.4 billion pesos in 2011, or 24% lower than its income attributable to the equity holder of the parent of 3.2 billion in 2010. Net revenues decreased by 10% year-on-year as advertising sales declined